Hey, everybody. Welcome to this Adobe Live bootcamp where we're going to be discussing how to sell your artwork in person and online. And yes, this is an offset week, so we're going to do things a little bit differently. My name is Wade Acuff. I'll be your host and your cross interviewer. We're here with special guests. Wow, we're already off to a great start. We're here with Cloverkin and Gabo, Ashley and Gabe. How's it going? How are you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, excited. Before we get started, though, I want to say hi to chat. What's up, chat? I see all the good people, all the Adobe Live community coming out. Andrew, Steve, Gareth, how's it going? So, chat, I have a mission for you, and I know you're up to it. We have to have a prompt to draw today. So if you can get some suggestions in chat. We were thinking something Halloween-ish. So that might be something you could help with. But while you guys think on that, I do want to say, hey, yeah, this is offset week. Ryan Selvey does a great job every time we do one of these. So look on the lookout for all the great content he's going to be providing along with his guests. And also be sure to follow us over on YouTube, the Adobe Live YouTube channel. And let's kick it back off to Gabe and Ashley. Can you please introduce yourselves and tell the Adobe Live community what you guys do?
I'm Cloverkin online everywhere except Twitter. I'm Cloverkin Art. But I was in games for about 10 years and I was doing all the art, concept work, animation, all that sort of stuff for that long. I did like 15 games and then I ended up leaving to pursue freelance and kind of my own personal projects because I figured better now than later, right? And I got the experience I wanted out of games. So now my main hustle is doing pet portraits, funny enough, and doing Patreon. I make a good amount on Patreon, so I'm able to actually, sustain myself there. So I do art, stories, stickers, fun monthly things on there, and conventions when I can too. Conventions are huge for me. So
Awesome.
I am Galvosaur, like everywhere. If you just Google Galvosaur, you'll find me. But I'm published under Gabo, like Gabo. And I've worked for companies like DC Comics, Image Comics. Most recently, it's been like Oni Press. I've done everything from color comic books to ink to draw, write. I'm like a one-man army when it comes to comics. And been doing it for about 15 years. So yeah, I do a lot of I used to do a lot of conventions and then something happened like a few years ago.
It's okay. We all know what happened.
And we couldn't go. So
you were doing them for like 20 years.
Yeah, but yeah, like I've been doing them since like the early 2000s. So God.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, I've raised many a young Padawan on the con circuit. So yeah.
Excellent. Awesome. So let's see what chat has provided for us. Let's take a look. We've got, let's see.
Oh, these are cute.
Brains in Decay. I think that's an option. Jelly Monster. I like Jelly Monster.
Jelly Monster's pretty cute.
Let's see. Is there anything else? Did I miss something?
The ghost in a Halloween costume?
Oh, ghost in it. Yes.
Scooters, like spiders with.
I like the ghost in a Halloween costume. What do you guys think?
I mean, I could do that.
The ghost in a Halloween costume?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
That sounds cute.
Awesome. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We probably will be a little distracted by the conversation, but that's okay. That's normal. So speaking of getting started, how do you guys get started when you're about to work a con or a live show?
Geez, in general, I usually make a list of all our materials and stuff. He kind of wings it at this point because he's done it so many times, but
right.
Make sure you've got tape, many kinds of tape. That was actually, you had that on your list. Wait,
oh,
yeah.
I
was like 100%. I have like a Gorilla Glue tape. I have one that doesn't make residue. That's like a shipping tape. And then I make sure I've got a double-sided Scotch tape that's removable. I use that for so many things. So that, among other things, I have a setup that's super modular that I can take on airplanes, that looks the same at local shows and away shows. So I think having a setup that is modular as well as compact and light is kind of the key if you're going to be doing a lot of cons, big and small.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to like grab a few, if it is your first show, grab a few things that you want to sell. Like, don't get crazy. Don't like,
Oh yeah.
don't make like a like
Mhm.
30 different things, you know, and expect to sell them all. Because that used to be me. I used to like make things and be like,
Yeah.
oh man, I'm gonna sell out of these, and I didn't sell a single one.
Yeah, I still have an issue with providing too many options sometimes.
Yeah. And that's kind of what you want to like avoid, is to figure out kind of what you do best when you do sell things various places and make it really concise and cohesive for when you're showing yourself, because your in-person presence is kind of a snippet of just who you are. So it's the best representation of your brand. And you do want to be a brand. You want to make sure, like, in my case, I do a lot of fantasy, a lot of animals and things. So I dress up like an elf. My display is a tree. So really try to brand yourself as if you were a legitimate business, because you are, you know, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of running over my notes. Yeah, definitely. This is where will start an inventory list to make sure I have enough product, and just make sure that's all listed out, a little spreadsheet that I reconcile before and after an event. That kind of helps you know what you're selling, what's actually moving, and then know what you need to plan for the next one. How do you guys handle pricing? Because I know there's like all sorts of, I know this is also it's a very individual topic. Like, everybody's going to be different. And there's also variations on product types that you would price at different, levels. And you guys do mostly traditional art. So what do you guys do? How do you guys figure out your pricing for traditional work?
I think it depends on your skill level, and you got to be kind of fair about that if you're just starting off versus you've been doing it a very long time. And the more you do it, the more comfy you'll get with understanding your skill level, what work went into it, how many hours, what materials, things like that. And you'll be able to base it more off, what you've learned over the past, but you have to start doing it to get to that point. So now I'm at the point where if I'm going to sell just an original, I like to make it where I'm at least getting $25 an hour that I did on it, because taxes, you want to, buffer it so that they end up taking like half of everything you make if you're freelance. So you want to make sure you build that into your prices, whether they're online or at a convention. So at least 25 an hour. When it comes to contract work and things outside that, I wouldn't use that metric. You're going to want something higher based on a contract and all that. But, just as a baseline for original work, I think it's a pretty decent factor to go off of.
What was the question again?
How do you price your work?
How do I price it? Honestly, like half the time it's like how I feel about the work. So if it's something that I really like, that I worked really hard on, and I really like it, then I'm going to charge more.
Gotcha.
But usually, like it's also like what
if you do it often too.
Yeah, like I guess if you do it often, but also like knowing your audience. So if you go to like a like a rinky-dink show, and like it's just, you can tell like people aren't really going to be bringing a lot of money, then maybe
you can adjust prices.
Adjust your prices. Obviously don't go too low, like where you're not getting what you're worth, but sometimes too, if I'm having a good interaction with someone at a table and they're like, hey, this is a great piece, then I'll just be like, yo, you know what, like I'll give it to you for like, whatever, like $50 off. I don't care.
A lot of things are just kind of, you feel it out at a convention. It's exciting for that reason. You have a good interaction with somebody, or something really strikes them. Maybe somebody even cries at your booth because they like something, and you're moved by it.
Right.
Yeah, it really has. So you feel like this is a moment that's special. This is a story moment. I get a lot of those at cons where it's like, this would make a good story for them and for me. So go with it. I feel deeply into karma in that sense. Like, there's something here, so I'm just going to go with it. Intuition at conventions is huge.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I generally just do for traditional things like if I know what my rate is, let's say 75 an hour or whatever it is, and I know that's going to take me 3 hours to make it, I will price it at that, and then that's the base. Now it may come down from there, but it also
Mhm.
may go up, depending on how it turns out. But it is a very personal thing. When I'm thinking about pricing, like if I'm making my inventory list and I'm doing my pricing at the same time, I usually want to make sure that I already have all my accounts set up for like taking card reader and payment
Mhm.
from, I use Square and they also have an inventory thing built in.
Mhm.
But that's just things like to think about when you're kind of in that mode of like, how am I taking payments? How am I charging people? That sort of thing. But Gabe, you brought up an excellent point. Know your show.
Yeah,
Every event has its own personality.
Mhm.
And I know
totally.
Ashley and I had talked about this before and several times actually. But the show may accept your application, but is your work right for that show?
Yeah.
So you got to
I
think about those things.
I see it a lot like portfolios. You want to cater your portfolio to the job you want. You don't just want to have your
Hmm.
portfolio be all over the place and then just throw it at certain job titles. If you don't have any anime, don't go to an anime show, that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
That was I did that for like 10 years until I
You realize, oh, maybe I
it,
shouldn't.
it wasn't even that I knew that I wasn't selling anything there because it wasn't anime, but I was strong-headed or thick-headed, and I just kept going back. I'm like, no, I'm gonna sell something.
But you also wanted to hang out with friends, which
That's
is
true.
another fun part of conventions
Right.
when you can. But yeah, it's tough to
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
tough
It
to
also
gauge
help
all of it.
you. Yeah. Even if you're like sort of in the genre that's at the show and you go ahead and decide you want to be there, it'll help you set your expectations as well,
Mm-hmm.
for what, kind of foot traffic you might have.
Yeah.
Um, and
Well,
also
and you
depending on the show, setting your price points, not changing your prices, but like items that may
yeah.
be, you can sell stickers for cheaper or, whatever.
And we were saying, we were talking about it, like nothing under $5 is usually worth your time to bring or to anything at a
Yeah.
Mhm.
con. If you're
Yeah.
doing stickers for like $3 or something, honestly, just sell a pack of them. It makes it easier for people too. And one of the
Hmm.
biggest things I tell people, and they're like, well, what's one big piece of advice for conventions? And I'm like, don't overwhelm people, because there's something I learned in mobile game design when I was doing a lot of UI, is if you've got a list of so many things, people's brains shut off after a certain amount. So you have to
Oh
really
yeah.
I think it's 10 or less. I should have looked
Yeah.
that up, but it's like 10 or less items, and you want to make it really
It's
palpable,
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
exactly. It's that decision paralysis. I think we've probably
Yes.
all been
Mm-hmm.
to that restaurant that had like a 10-page menu and you're like, why does it? It's
I mean,
too
that's why
much.
Subway breaks it down into sections, and Chipotle's like sections. You've got your
Hmm.
meats and you've got your veggies, and that's exactly how you want to treat your table. And in my case, I've had great success with having things on the table and above the table. So if you ever see, like on my website, I've got a picture of my setup. I have things mirrored, and it could be a little bit of a waste of space, but I found it's good because there are some people who solely look at your table, and then there are
Hmm.
other people who solely look at your banners up top.
Right.
So I've got my prints up there, but I've also got a little print menu on the table, and it's laminated, and I've got it so it's very obviously you leave it there, you don't take it with you.
Right.
So
That's Yeah. You bring up a good point too. With both of you have mentioned presentation, um, and that's an extension of your artwork. So
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I know both of you guys do this really well. But Ashley, do you want to talk about your screen sona? I don't know what you're calling it now, but
My Cloverkin.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because I'm kind of doing a reverse cosplay. Like, I made this character that I dress up at cons, and now it's actually become a character that I include in my Patreon, and she's got her
Hmm.
own little story. So I don't know if it's technically me or her now.
That's
But
funny.
on my stream, I've got my whole stream. I stream on Saturdays at 2 p.m. CST on Twitch, by the way. So every Saturday I do a piece. Usually it's watercolor. But I take that stream sona typically wherever I go. So I made it my brand, So it's easily recognizable. If I'm at a convention and somebody sees leaves, you know, a couple aisles away, they're like, oh my gosh, it's Cloverkin. And I've had people tell me they spotted me from my leaves and things like that.
Huh.
So if you can figure out a way to brand yourself in such a way that you're memorable, and it matches your work, and you're just starting to solidify yourself as a business, it's really fun. I mean, if you like doing that sort of stuff, I get a kick out of it, but it helps. It really helps with your online presence too.
Yeah. Yeah. And a key thing with your presentation is just make sure your name or your brand is visible along with your
Yes,
social media contacts.
definitely. I have a
Yeah.
QR code for that up on
Yep.
my banner. And then I also have QR codes for payment too. So I have multiple sources that you can pay me with. So it's like Square, QR code, email, PayPal, coffee, like all these sorts of things. But you want to give people options, you know, and let them know that, because then they'll just, you know, perk up and be like, oh, you offer Venmo? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, oh, that's great. So more sales that way. But whenever you're doing any of that, you want to make sure you're genuine and not trying to just make a sale.
Yeah.
Like, this is something I think all three of us like are hardcore about. If you just care about getting that sale and that money, it's going to show like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never do a hard sell. Like it,
I don't think you should.
my biggest thing is, you know, I know it sounds cliche, but being yourself is really going to go a lot further than trying to act like, you know, a salesman, which is terrible.
Yeah.
But some people are naturally, you know, if it's natural to you, that's just how it comes off. And then sometimes it works. My biggest thing is about standing up and just greeting people. Like,
absolutely.
I'm usually always standing behind my desk, wow, because I'm behind a desk at my booth. And, you know, eye contact, saying hello. That's about it. If someone stops, I will sometimes say, hey, come take a look. It's nothing too pushy.
See, I usually even just ask them how their con's going. I don't even talk about my work until they do, typically.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then it's organic, and that's how you want it to be, because you want them to organically want your work. You don't, if somebody's not interested, they're not going to stop. So that's fine. It's not for them. That's okay. Don't take offense to that. You know, your work will speak to people and bring them in. So you don't have to sell it if your work is speaking for itself. You just ask them how they're doing, you know, if they see anything they like, have questions, anything like that. Otherwise, just ask them about their con, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And since we're talking about presentation, Misty's asking, where do you get a modular, collapsible, lightweight display?
Let me tell you.
Cleardisplays.com.
Well, yes and no. It depends on what your product is. And your whole display is going to depend on your product. I have a mishmash of things. I've got prints, I've got original art, I've got keychains, books, bookmarks, stickers, all kinds of things. But you make sure every part of your table has its own section. So it's, again, easily digestible what that is, you know, and have all your stuff. Don't handwrite your signs. Don't do that. You want to actually print them out, have a color-coded system if you can. I do. So that when they see a yellow, like, you know, sign, they know that's going to be name and pricing of something. It's very graphic designy if you think about it. But in terms of like, how do you get the setup? I've got like a photo booth setup where it's like a lighting rig, where it's just it's two tripod things that go up and it connects to a top bar. And then I have vinyl banners, which aren't lightweight. Okay. Neither of these things are lightweight. They're the heaviest things I've got, but they're really worth it for me to bring, specifically me. And like I said, you know, he just brings a banner. So it depends on what your thing is. You know, he doesn't need all the flair that I've got to do, you know, to put myself out there. He's kind of known, right?
Yeah.
So the lightweight display thing is, over time, your table's going to go through so many iterations that you just got to roll with it.
Don't be afraid to change.
Don't be afraid to change.
And this is another point. What I would say, definitely start simple. You know, make sure it looks good, but keep it simple. Make sure this is something you want to do for a while too before you start investing in, you know, more expensive gear.
Maybe share a half table with somebody first.
Yes.
See if you even like conventions, because some people want to just jump in, but they find out they hate it. So just test the waters first. Same with streaming. Anything you want to do, test it first.
One pro tip on your setup is make sure you practice your setup.
Yes.
Before practice setup and breakdown before you get to the venue. I often have a checklist with me too, and this is me checking that everything works and that I'm packing it. And this has been a thing that I more recently have come across. If I'm going to some place I've never been, either talk to the venue or another artist that has worked it and see if there's any unknown issues that you wouldn't know unless you went. Things like Wi-Fi availability, power outlets, that sort of thing. Lighting has been a big, kind of like a big thing. If certain venues don't have, quite enough light, you can bring your own. But I do want to jump to Cloverkin and Gabe. I think you both have Patreons. I want to talk about selling online. There's tons of stuff we didn't cover for in person, but you can reach out to any of us and ask us questions at any point.
Yes. So I do stream on YouTube too. So it's Twitch and YouTube on Saturdays at 2 p.m. CST. So if you have any more questions, come see me. As far as Patreon, you at least, if you're an artist of any kind, have any sort of following whatsoever, it's really good to have at least a $1 tier. Because there are people out there that don't necessarily want to buy merch, but they want to support you. If you have that $1 tier, they can either give you $1 or input their own amount, and over time you can have that. But everything that is like the most important thing is that you don't jump in to shipping rewards right away. That's a huge one because that'll scare you. If you're not used to it, don't do it. Start small, then maybe add a $3 tier that's like digital things that you feel comfortable doing month after month. Don't choose something that someone else is doing that you don't want to do. Make sure your rewards fit you as an artist and what you feel comfortable doing month after month. Because really, Patreon is like a mini Kickstarter every single month that you're fulfilling all these things. And like, I love shipping things, but Wade, we had talked about you and shipping things, and Wade's not big on it.
No, I'm very. It's kind of like social media posts. I try. Occasionally hard. I can do it. But yeah, if shipping's not your thing, figure out what is your thing, and make that work for you. Because there are digital deliveries too.
Yeah. You could do strictly digital if you can, and honestly, if you can swing that, that's the best way to do it. Is just digital stuff. But like, I offer stickers, story packs, all these sorts of things, which I love to print and fold and do all that stuff. That's fun for me. So.
Yeah, and I mean, we like, I do trading cards and stickers also, but we didn't get to that point. Like, we didn't start Patreon like that. No. We started like,
I was in 2018. I started mine.
Yeah, we were just doing just digital stuff, and then as we started, like, you want to like start making, if you start making money from it, sort of start investing that money into new things. So now we have the the equipment to make stickers. We have a nicer printer so that the color looks better. So like,
so we do everything in house. So but it took a while to get to that point, and you just gotta walk through those steps, or else you're just paying too much right away for something you're not sure will pay off. So.
Yeah, we have a question. It's more of a statement, but a question. If you're still trying to figure out how to grow Patreon, any tips on growing your Patreon?
So the best way I've grown my Patreon really quickly was shows. I have this perk where if you sign up on my Patreon at the show at my table, you get a free pin. So that, like at Dragon Con, I got 10 people to sign up because they also wanted the pin.
Right.
So then they stay on typically because it's easier to just stay on subscription services than to cancel them. It's the honest truth. So other than that, honestly, if you do any social media post that has to do with Patreon or anything like that, the algorithm usually squashes it. So I say shows and in person, and just word of mouth is the best way, but by no means don't stop doing internet posting about it. You still should. It's just, don't get discouraged when it doesn't reach very far. It's too bad.
Peter's mentioning about what you do on the show, or what you do for Patreon to get people to support you. Now, I know you do drawings on Twitch that you sell, like they're up for sale as you're creating them.
Yeah, I also do that. For Patreon, I do ATCs, which are like trading cards. We both do those.
Mhm.
Totally different ways of doing them. Like mine are like this. They're a new piece every month, and on the back, it's usually like a full story about it. So it's not just art piece, but
Right.
like I said, your Patreon should reflect what you do. So just explore what you like to do, and you just try to make that into a business. But I mean, if none of this is important to you, keep art as a hobby.
Mhm.
You know, you don't have to sell anything. Even
Yeah.
though we're on a sell your art thing. It's true though, you know.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
Some people get
And,
pressured into doing it.
Don't get
Yeah.
pressured. Yep.
and I think sometimes you know when it's right for you and when it's not.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
definitely been times where I've been like, I could do this show or do this thing, but it doesn't feel right. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. You really got to feel it out. Knowing yourself as an artist and what you're willing to do
Yeah.
and what you're not is, in any case, online sales, conventions, whatever, it's imperative, you know.
Yep.
It's crazy.
All right. Finally taking a look at what you guys have done. Amazing.
Thanks, Wade.
That's really cool.
Oh, yours is so cute.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah, I started a witch one, but it's too
Oh.
sad for me. So I moved to
Didn't
the
look
mummy.
happy with its candy
Mhm.
haul.
Yeah. But that is going to do it for us. Let's see, I'm going to wrap this up. Make sure to go follow Ashley and Gabe and Ashley Cloverkin, all of those. Be sure to check out Offset Week with Ryan Selvey all this week. And coming up next is Power Prompts with Cody Bear, and I'll be your mod. So
Yeah.
we'll see you guys. Gabe, Ashley, anything you want to say before we leave?
You can't learn unless you do. So if you want to learn, if you want to be good at art, do
Yes.
the art.
Wisdom.
That's true. Walk
There-
the walk.
There you have it,
Yeah.
folks. All right. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.